Three American kids, raised overseas, wrote a song about a nameless horse, and it knocked Neil Young from #1. They were treated with near Beatles-level prestige. They sold 20 million records. They built a golden-era soundtrack for an entire generation. And then something happened that almost nobody saw coming. Not a fist-fight breakup, not tabloid chaos, not some dramatic press conference. Instead, a spiritual fracture. One voice vanished into faith, the harmonies shattered, and the band that once ruled radio ended up playing empty rooms, haunted by what they used to be. This is the story of America, told as the 7 levels that ended their run, from global domination to bitterness to a quiet collapse, and finally, decades later, redemption. Level 1, displaced kids. They weren't raised in America. They were raised chasing it. If you want to understand America's rise, you have to start with the weirdest truth about them. America didn't begin in California. It didn't even begin in the United States. It began in London, late 1960s, inside the strange in-between world of American military families stationed overseas. Dewey Bunnell, Jerry Beckley, Dan Peake, sons of U.S. Air Force personnel living on bases, watching America from across an ocean. Their classmates back home were growing up inside the draft era, protests, cultural revolution. But these three? They were trapped between worlds, too American for England, too displaced to feel like they belonged anywhere. Dewey's childhood was constant motion, 18 moves in 16 years, a survival lifestyle that taught him something brutal. If you make a mistake here, you can reinvent yourself next year somewhere else. That kind of life does something to a person. It creates a hunger for something permanent, something real, something you can finally call home. So they clung to the only home they could hold on to, music. Level 2, building a mythical America. They sang about a country they barely lived in. They met at London Central High School, near Hertfordshire. Basically a hub for American military families trying to keep their identity intact on foreign soil. To fight homesickness and culture shock, they started playing together, borrowed acoustics, basement rooms, small spaces. Their heroes weren't the loudest bands. They weren't chasing hard rock domination. They loved Crosby, Stills, and Nash, those close vocal harmonies, that Laurel Canyon purity. Yes, the Beatles were everywhere in London, but America wasn't trying to sound British. They were chasing a West Coast dream, a California they hadn't really lived in. Crafts, road maps, desert memories, childhood road trips, and by 1970 they chose the boldest name possible, America. A band called America, formed in England by kids who spent their lives everywhere but home. That irony wasn't lost on them, but it set the stage for something bigger. They weren't just writing songs, they were writing longing. Level 3, the break that changed everything. They got their shot, and the right people were watching. Every career has a moment where the door cracks open. For America, that moment came in a real place, on a real night, December 20th, 1970, the Roundhouse in London. They opened for The Who and Elton John, and it put them in front of people who could actually change their lives. Producers Ian Samwell and Jeff Dexter noticed them, and what they noticed wasn't some manufactured pop act. It was 3 displaced young men singing like their lives depended on it. 3-part harmonies, acoustic guitars, lyrics about travel, restlessness, escape, because that's what their whole lives had been. They signed with Warner Brothers. They released a self-titled debut album in January 1972, and at first, it was modest, not a total failure, just not the breakout the label wanted. Radio programmers weren't sure what to do with them yet, so the label pushed for more, additional material recorded at Morgan Studio, and that's where America's fate gets locked in. Level 4, A Horse with No Name, The Accidental Supernova, a song they almost didn't include, became the song that defined them forever. Among the extra tracks recorded later was a Dewey Bunnell song, originally called Desert Song. It wasn't engineered to dominate the world. It was built from fragment, those long desert drives in the Southwest when his family was stationed stateside, stark landscapes, alien and American at the same time. The song gets retitled A Horse with No Name. It had that hypnotic, clip-clopping beat, Jerry Beckley's distinctive 12-string guitar, and lyrics that were mysterious, cryptic, deliberately abstract. Plants and birds and rocks and things, they thought it might be too quirky, too strange, almost like a novelty record. Then in early 1972, it becomes an international phenomenon. It hits first on the US Billboard Hot 100 by March. Gold certification follows quickly. And the twist, countless Americans thought it was Neil Young. The voice, the guitar feel, the vibe, even seasoned fans were fooled. Then the story turns into a headline moment. The song displaces Neil Young's Heart of Gold from the top spot. Dewey never denied the influence. He admitted Neil was a hero, but the comparisons triggered backlash. Some people didn't just say, this is inspired, they said derivative. They accused America of riding coattails, but none of that mattered to radio. Radio couldn't stop playing it, and overnight the pressure becomes impossible. America wasn't allowed to grow slowly. They weren't allowed to build momentum. They were instantly measured against a song they almost left off the album. Now the whole world is asking, can you do it again? Level 5, proving they weren't a fluke. They didn't just survive the hit. They built an era. This is the part most one-hit wonders never reach. America reached it. Their debut album, powered by that massive hit, produces another top 10. Jerry Beckley's I Need You peaks at 9. So now it's official. They're not a fluke. Then comes Homecoming in 1972, and it delivers a song that becomes a permanent road trip anthem, Ventura Highway. It peaks at 8, and it captures something people can't explain but instantly feel. Endless highways, golden light, freedom hiding over the next horizon. But the band is moving into a bigger league now, and that requires something else. Industry prestige, polish, a sound that can sit on top of radio without losing heart. And in 1974, America makes the move that defines their golden era. They recruit Sir George Martin, the legendary Beatles producer. That name alone is instant credibility, but it's also craft. Martin takes their raw acoustic purity and elevates it. String, layered harmony, refined arrangements, soundscapes intimate and expansive. From 1974 to 1977, 4 albums, America hits their artistic and commercial peak. Holiday, Hearts, Hideaway, Harbor, and the hits are relentless. Tin Man peaks at 4th, 1,974. Dan Peek's Lonely People hits 5th, 1,975. Then their second first, Sister Golden Hair, May 1,975. If Horse Was Lightning, Sister Golden Hair is confirmation. They are soft rock royalty. They win the Grammy for Best New Artist, 1,973. Their compilation history. America's Greatest Hits goes multi-platinum by 1975. These were the years their audience remembers as a feeling. High school summers, first love, graduations, beach bonfires, long drives with the windows down. But here's what peaks do. They expose you, because the same sound that made them famous also boxed them in. Level 6, the invisible crack. Success didn't destroy them loudly. It destroyed them quietly. By the late 1970s, tastes are shifting violently. Punk exploding in England. New wave rising. Arena rock harder, louder, more aggressive. America's gentle harmony-driven beauty starts getting dismissed as toothless, corporate, easy listening, and inside the band pressure is building, touring, recording. The machine doesn't stop. Despite their soft sound, they're living in the same world of excess. Drugs, alcohol, groupies, empty hotel rooms, cities blurring together, and Dan Peek, quietly, can't survive it. Years later, in his memoir An American Band, he describes the conflict as crushing. He says it felt like being on a runaway freight train with no way off, and the scariest part, he had achieved the American dream, and he was miserable. He had made a spiritual vow. If he ever achieved success, he would use it for religious purpose. Instead, he described himself as a practicing hedonist for 7 years, living a double life, outwardly living like a rock star, inwardly devout, drowning in guilt and despair. Then comes the turning point nobody predicted. 1977, Dan rededicates his life to faith in a dramatic prayer of repentance. And he makes a decision that ends the band as the world knew it. He quits America. No screaming, no lawsuit, no tabloid war. He just walks away to pursue a solo career as a Christian pop artist. But the aftermath is devastating. He describes it like a divorce, and shortly after, his house burns down in a fire. This is the emotional high. NGE of America's story. Their collapse wasn't explosive. It was quiet, and that makes it even sadder, because people didn't understand it while it was happening. Level 7. The collapse and the aftermath. When the third voice vanished, the identity vanished with. When Dan Peek leaves, America loses more than a member. They lose the third songwriter, the third creative perspective, the third harmony voice that made them unique. Jerry Beckley and Dewey Bunnell continue as a duo, but that void is immediate. Their first release after the split is a concert LP, Live, October 1977. It becomes a commercial disaster, peaking at 129th, that breaks their streak of top 30 albums, a signal to the industry, something fundamental changed. The magic is gone. They end their long tenure with Warner Brothers and move to Capitol Records, hoping for a reset. But now they're in identity crisis, stuck between the sound that made them famous and a world that has moved on. Their final George Martin-produced album, Silent Letter, 1979, peaks at 110th. Then comes the symbolic low point, Alibi, 1980. The friction with the label becomes so bad, the album is divided into two sides, our side and their side. That's not just a gimmick, that's a band at war with its own direction. It peaks at 142nd, and here's the detail that shows how unresolved the split truly was. They make the painful choice to delete Dan Peek's biggest compositions from their live set, including major hits like Lonely People and Don't Cross the River. Those songs once defined the harmony. Now they're erased. The public doesn't notice the specific. They just notice the result. America is no longer on the radio. The hits stop. The relevance evaporates. There is a brief recovery in 1982 with producer Russ Ballard helping them adapt to early 80s power pop. You Can Do Magic returns them to the top 10, a flash of what they once were, but it doesn't restore the era. By the 1990s, America becomes a survival touring act. State fairs, county festivals, casinos, and Dewey's self-aware joke. Before a horse with no name captures the entire tragedy, well, it's time to drag out the nag. The song that launched them becomes the reason most people show up. That's the quiet collapse. Not death, not scandal, just shrinking. Epilogue. Redemption. The band fractured, but the songs refused to die. And then something unexpected happens in the 21st century. America gets rediscovered. The yacht rock cultural movement helps reframe their catalog. Not disposable easy listening, but polished studio craft. Music that demanded real musical chop. Then cinema and TV bring the songs back into the bloodstream of culture. A Horse with No Name shows up prominently in Breaking Bad, American Hustle, The Nice Guy. Other songs find similar placements. And Lonely People even appears in Jesus Revolution. That's the emotional closure. Even when the brotherhood collapsed into estrangement, even when tours became nostalgia, the music endured. Three displaced military kids created harmonies out of homesickness, conquered the world, and quietly fell apart when success revealed emptiness. Dan Peek chose faith over fame. The duo struggled to recapture the magic, but the songs outlived the conflict and found new generations anyway. So here's my question for you. What's your memory of hearing America for the first time? Was it Ventura Highway on a summer drive, Sister Golden Hair at a school dance, or that first time A Horse with No Name came on the radio and you thought, wait, is that Neil Young? Drop your memory in the comments and subscribe for more stories about the bands that defined the golden era and the turning points that changed everything.